Well, good afternoon, Jeremy. We're at opening day in the midst of what we could ever call probably one of the better opening days. But I'm afraid to tell you, we lost our sponsor. Even Writers Tears doesn't want to have anything to do with the Red Sox right now. But wait, this just in. Hold on. I'm getting news from Fenway.
Bring out the tarp. Cover the field. I can't watch this anymore. It's over. Turn the lights out. Let's get the bulldozers in here and turn this place into a parking lot.
Oh my god.
Well, that kind of gives you an idea where we're going this week. We're going to try to stay positive as much as we can, but it's been a rough first week to say the least. Yeah, we knew going into this year, Chris Sale going to be on the shelf for a little while. Pitching staff was just going to see what they can do with what they got with a bunch of old guys and some guys who've done it, not in the number one spots. Eovaldi, yeah, but he's still not a number one guy in my mind. Right. He's always a number two, or number two. I would say a good number two.
Yeah, he's solid too.
Yeah,
nobody can dispute that. But yeah, I wouldn't consider him a true ace, in the sense of the words. I mean, Valdi has some struggles, and it's not to say that every ace out there like a Scherzer or Kershaw when he's in his prime or something like that would have a game that was a blunder. But with Eovaldi, it's a little more than what you'd want from somebody who's an ace. The point of your number one starter is, sure, you get into a slump for a little bit, but when he takes the mound, if you do lose, it's only going to be a 2-run game or something like that. And Eovaldi just hasn't proven that as far as being of that stature.
Yes. All right. Let's set the tone for what we've seen in this last week. What would you say would be your positive takeaway from this last week?
As we were thinking this week, I kind of came up with, for off the monster, what do we have going on here? I think, taking a look weekly, we should go with what's good, what's bad, what's scary, and then also what's surprising. And the takeaway I have from at least this last week, right? Good, Garrett Whitlock. I said it all off season. They were going to stretch him out to be a starter. I just had that gut feeling. He comes out, pitches the lights out, really impressive. And on top of that, he has the extension, which is very team friendly. So he's locked up and he's in a team friendly contract. If he keeps doing what he's doing, you could potentially see a couple different things. It could be he's a starter. It could be you go with the combination of having Walker start, first 3 innings because, he's an older guy, and then Whitlock comes in and, goes 4 or 5 innings, something like that. You could see him assume like an Andrew Miller role where he comes in at a high pressure situation early on in the game and then settles everything down for a couple innings. So Whitlock is going to be a very interesting story to watch for the season. So I'll pass it back to you. What's your good for the week?
Yeah, I'd have to agree on, like you say, Whitlock. Very, very, it's a great contract, especially if he does turn into a starter over the years, in the next 4 or 5 years of his contract. Plus, we stole him from the Yankees. Nothing gets better than that. So,
right.
My good it's pretty obvious. There hasn't been much, unfortunately, but Devers, he's consistent. He's going to give. If I wasn't a Red Sox fan, it's hard to say this looking from the outside in. If I wasn't a Red Sox fan, I would still turn in just to watch Devers at plate. Every night, just because he's such an enjoyable character to watch. His love of the game. He looks like a kid who just put on a uniform and he just wants to play. Yeah, we'll talk about some unpleasant things, not Devers related, but somewhat Devers related with the Red Sox here in a little bit. But he's there. Yeah, he's going to get 30 home runs, I bet, this year. The team's going to start to bounce back. It's not going to be a 200 hitting team for the entire year. That's just not in Fenway. It's not going to happen. So I'll move on to my. Yeah. I mean, if you've anything else to add on that.
Well, it's funny you bring up Devers because the one thing that, I am enjoying seeing about him is there wasn't that long ago where if a ball was hit to Devers, everybody would kind of hold on to their seats going, what the hell's going to happen? And so far he's looked the part this, early on going in the season, that defensively he'll be solid, and he had glimpses of it last year. He didn't have an awful year last year defensively, but it seems like each year he gets better.
Right. Yeah, which leads into my bad. I think everybody in Red Sox Nation wanted to see Devers and Bogarts, their contracts extended. It's unpleasant going into the season. It feels like you're going to have a bad clubhouse. Players are going to say what they're going to say, but at the end of the day, they would have liked to have that contract sewn up, because Bogarts can get out of his contract. He's still under contract, but he's got the player release part of it. And I think the same thing with Devers too. I think he's got one more year left. That's team, but I think they're only going to be able to keep one. It's bad. You look at the farm. You got Marcelo Mayer. You got Cassis is coming up.
Duran.
York.
York.
They got the farm, and Bogarts is the odd man out, unfortunately. He's been around for a long time. It's not like he hasn't been around for a couple of years. He's been around for 10 years.
Right.
Now. So I'd feel bad that if he leaves, but we've got the replacements in the farm system to replace him. So we'll see what happens there. Something might happen throughout the year, but I don't believe in the rumors with how bad and whether it was $100 million apart or as far as the contracts, whatever. They're apart. They weren't on the same page. All right, let's play baseball.
Yep. For my bad, I'm coming out of the gates here, and I know, what, probably come June or something, I might have to eat my words on this, but Trevor Story, just starting out, very disappointing. Not looking comfortable at the plate, for one thing, and, missing the time. I get illnesses happen, but in this day and age of COVID, he was proven non-COVID related. He still traveled with the team to Detroit, but didn't play. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not even going to pretend to be one, but it's just disappointing that this, high profile player comes in and starts out the way he has. And also too, looking at, offensively, there's people saying, well, with the Renfroe trade and that, we replaced Renfroe's offense with Trevor Story. Well, that didn't happen. And Renfroe starting out, not too bad over Milwaukee. So again, I'm looking back at that trade going, we traded away Hunter Renfroe, who was he a Gold Glove outfielder? No, not like JBJ, but it was at least a good balance. I mean, he was a guy out there who could produce offensively. We got Jackie Bradley Jr., who continues to take at-bats away from guys. So it's disappointing having Trevor Story. He needs to produce more.
Yeah, how I feel about Trevor Story. Ever since they signed him, there's people that are made for places like New York, LA, Boston. Those guys are Jeter,
Right.
Petey, Pedro, Schilling.
Poppy.
This guy from the get-go is just coming, not even from the Midwest, Colorado of all places. I don't want to go there, but this could overtake him if he doesn't get off to a good start, which he hasn't. It could really kill his mentality at the plate, because the fans are going to be relentless. You start hitting 100, 200, I don't care how much you get paid. You are going to get booed. Jeter's been booed, and you are no Jeter, my friend. So you're getting paid over $20 million a year. You've never hit 300. You've never hit over 25 home runs. I think 25 or somewhere between 25 and 30, maybe. But definitely not worth the contract they signed him to. And once again, they've got prospects down on the farm teams. There was no need to sign him to this long contract. It was a knee-jerk reaction that the fans probably bullied Heim Bloom into, and the Yankees pinned him into a corner.
Yeah, it definitely plays into how the offseason went. And my opinion was Heim Bloom had a chance to shine bright and really got outplayed by everybody in the league. And I agree. The Story move was kind of a knee-jerk thing. Sure, there's reports that they were talking before the lockout happened, which is why he pulled the trigger on the trade. But to me, the trade for Hunter Renfroe and that it didn't need to be done. We had the prospects. So you got 2 more prospects. That's great. And I'm not saying you can't have too many prospects, but we were 2 games away from the World Series. Why did you give up that offense? I mean, we got worse defensively, no matter how you look at it, because our biggest question mark was the infield defense. Sure, you improved the outfield defense, which wasn't the biggest question mark, but now you made infield defense worse by having Trevor Story, who was a shortstop, move positions, and that's always going to take some adjustment. So
is that your scary as the defense?
The scary could be my defense, but actually I'm going back to railing on Jackie Bradley. The fact that he's in the lineup, he's taking a spot away offensively from people that we know can produce. Travis Shaw, yeah, he's on the team and he's taking up a spot. But here's the thing with Travis Shaw. Time shows, his baseball card shows, he's a decent pinch hitter. He can play multiple positions. He can play first, third, right, left. Doesn't matter. He can take up those spots. Jackie Bradley Jr., simply put, yes, he's got stellar defense in the outfield. That's great. What else does he do? Nothing. And that's taking away an offensive spot in a time where we really need some offense if the last week hasn't proven it.
Yeah, and I'm right on board with you. Mine a little bit more outside of JBJ. I just go with the bottom, quarter of that order. We've always had stellar offenses that would go even to the 7-hole. You get into Story at 6, and as bad as I hate to forecast people, but I just don't see him taking off in Boston. You got 6, 7, 8, 9. Dalbach, that's up in the air. He gets streaky. JBJ does hit into home runs. He'll hit 5, 10. That I swear he closes his eyes and hits a fastball. But even his defense, he's in right field now.
Right.
And that worries me. It's like he's always played center field. And that basically says to me he does not have the wheels he used to. And don't get me wrong, his arm in right field is probably the best place for him anyway. But
right,
the bottom of that order is it's an empty black hole where just offense is going to die.
About it too,
the National League got the designated hitter and nothing for the Red Sox.
Right. And as far as before we tried to sign Trevor Story, Jackie Bradley Jr. with the contract that he has, that was actually the most time has spent on an acquisition before he signed Trevor Story. And that's what you're getting. You're getting somebody who, okay, he's got a cannon in right field. He's solid defensively. Nobody argues that. He's Gold Glove caliber, but he's going to hit well below the Mendoza line. I mean, yeah, last year it was god awful, and everybody's saying, well, you can't get worse than that. Yeah, but it wasn't like it was much better. So that's the scary part on me. But I agree with you as well.
Yeah, my surprising is the bullpen. You talked about Whitlock, but the bullpen's only surprising because they've had to be put under the microscope so early from day one. And Whitlock, the way they've stretched him out, he's been untouchable. Diekman had a great outing in New York. He faulted in Detroit. I think they brought him in a bad situation, brought him in the 8th inning. If it's your closer, that's your closer. But evidently it's not their closer. I think it's going to be Robles, which that's up in the air too. I mean, but you still have some really glaring holes. They probably just need to lance off. Barnes, they just need to part way with this guy. He's right. He's done. Brazier, he's done. You're carrying a bunch of arms right now. It's early. You get some extra days off. You don't need as many guys on the bench. When you need to go back, you're playing every day. You need more guys on the bench. These guys need to go. They're just, like you said, JBJ is taking up a spot, which I totally believe. Duran should be up here right now getting big league experience. He had a bad start last year, but one no prospect in the league other than Wander Franco has gone off to a great start.
Right.
It's hard.
It is. It is. And, it's guys like Wander Franco, guys like, and I'll, just because it's fresh in my head and we were close to the team, but you look like the 2016 Cubs and how those guys came up, the Bryants, the Schwarbers, all that. They set a precedent that everybody thinks, rookies should just attain it. That's it. They're up. And if they're, worthwhile, they're going to produce right away. And it's not been the case of baseball for the last 130 years.
We've been lucky though.
Yeah.
We had Devers,
we
who just stepped right in, hit 101 mile an hour home run off of the Sandman.
Exactly.
You have Bogarts help lead them to the World Series title, and was it 13?
Right.
So it does happen from time to time. I mean, maybe that's a detriment to these young kids, is that it does happen, that it's expected that it will happen.
Right. It is. And you look at the story of like Anthony Rizzo. That's pretty much how it goes for most stars, right? He came up, struggled, set back down to the minors. In his case, he got traded to another team, came up, struggled again, went back down to the minors. And then when he came up again, he ended up being a solid guy, he all-star. Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? No, but that's been kind of the precedent set is, in a case like Raffy or something like that, they come up and they wow everybody. It's like, oh, they're a lock for a Hall of Fame. That's not going to happen with every rookie.
And I would have loved to seen Rizzo come back to where he started.
That would have been awesome.
Those people up there, most people don't know, he was drafted by the Boston Red Sox.
Right, he was.
Yeah. And would he have looked great in a Red Sox uniform? I mean, playing first base, the guy is a vacuum at first base. Yes. Nothing to Dahlbach, which I think he's played great this year so far at first base. But anything that's getting near first base, Rizzo is just suctioning up. Right. And he's going to hit. So that burns badly for me that he went to the Yankees, because I love him. I think he's a class act kid.
Yeah, I agree. He was. It would have been nice to see that. And that's the thing too, when we're getting to these rookies, right? We know we have a farm system with solid prospects. Whether they turn out or not, nobody knows. But here's the issue we face. We know we have guys taking roster spots away from them. And these guys are not great. They're not producing like we need to. So either get them out of the way and bring the prospects up to see what we have going on, or, make some trades happen with these prospects to get some guys to get us there. Again, I stress, we were 2 games away from the World Series. I mean, it feels like the way that the season is starting off and the way that the offseason went, we took a couple steps back, and it's really for what? Like, why? I mean, Chaim Bloom built the farm system the way it is after the debacle of Dave Dombrowski. And yet he keeps adding prospects. And the joke that I had, because we heard about J-Lo and Ben Affleck getting engaged, but he's collecting prospects like J-Lo's collecting rings, like just
engagement rings.
Right. Like, I understand you can't have too many prospects, but the problem is you can have too many to call up. You don't have spots for them. What do? They're not going to sit in Worcester for 4 years until you can call them up. No, you got to do something with them.
Yeah.
So it is. Anyways, I'm sorry. We went down that rabbit hole and I never got to my surprising. And you know what? I have to actually look at my list because I just totally forgot. But I agree. The bullpen was my surprising, right? They've been solid. They've actually been lights out starting off. Barnes, jury's out on him. I think that ship sailed. If you can get a little bit out of him and at least make him into a guy, and you can trade him and get something to solid, great. The Brazier, it's time for him to go as well. I think he's peaked as well. But the rest of the guys seem to be doing really good. Here's the issue. The fact that we're talking about how lights out the bullpen is in the first week of the season, that is a red flag to me, because what we really should be talking about is our starters are doing well and the bullpen has bridged the gap to a closer. And, so pitching wise, we're doing okay. No, we're talking, wow, the bullpen has been lights out. What have we gotten from our starters?
To be fair, there was a short spring training. Pitchers
It
didn't
is.
get their arms strength up.
Right.
It's only week one. It's easy to get carried away. To me, this feels a lot like last year. Very similar, very slow start. Chris Hill wasn't here last year either. He rushed to get back toward the end of the year. Hopefully he doesn't do the same thing this year. The team, the makeup, the personality, and I hate to say it's going to be 6-8 weeks away, but the personality, I don't think this team will get personality until Sale steps back into that clubhouse. There's nobody on that team. JD Martinez is not that guy. Bogarts is not that guy. Devers is not that guy. There's nobody
Story's
on that
not being
team
that guy.
other than Verdugo, maybe.
Right.
That's got the personality.
PK,
Yeah.
you know,
There's no Millar.
right.
There's no Big Poppy. That's the elite there, but still.
It is.
Only
And
week one.
Even when you look at the 13 team, you had, Mike Napoli and Shane Viscarino, and those guys was wild.
Viscarino.
Keep things loose. Yeah.
You
Right.
have some scope with that too.
But yeah, the 18 team, had that too. The guys that break it up and keep it loose and stuff. It seems like they're very flat coming out.
Yeah.
And that's what's disappointing.
Yeah. Well, only week one. Hopefully next week we'll have a lot more good things to talk about. Maybe a no-hitter that's not against us, obviously. Less bad, less scary, and more surprising items.
I'm going to call it.
What's that?
I'm going to call it the Pavetta no-hitter.
Okay, I'm going to say Travis Story has 2 more runs and makes us look bad. That's my surprising for next week. What's that?
Mine's more believable. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, he's got the monster. He can plop a couple over the monster. All right. Well, until next week, this has been Off the Monster with Jeremy and Jeff. Look forward to seeing you next week. As always, please fill in those comments. Let us know how we're doing and let us know what you want us to talk about. Have a great day.
See ya.